Hi Diana, I am back now.
Okay, sure, we should be starting. And
Mhm.
once again, welcome to this session for everyone who's joining and those who will be joining. We're hoping for more people to join. And I will be your host for today. And we are having this session just to create awareness on what the blue economy is all about. And I would welcome if you have any questions to our speaker for today, who's happened to be Kevin. And Kevin Lunzalu is a marine project officer at East Africa Wildlife Society. And today he's going to break down for us what the Blue Economy and Innovation and Investment Summit is all about, and how can we ensure that we maximally take part, we benefit, we share our voices, and see how we are supporting innovations around this sector. So I myself am Diana Anyoso. I work with East Africa Wildlife Society, and I am happy to have you in this session. So maybe just to start off, Kevin, you can introduce yourself. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Diana. Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Lunzalu, as rightly introduced by my colleague Diana. I am the Marine Project Officer at the East African Wildlife Society. I studied coastal science and policy for my master's degree. And for this particular event, I am here to represent the East African Wildlife Society in this edition of the Blue Economy Investment and Innovation Summit that's taking place here at the PrideInn Paradise in Shanzu, Mombasa. We're going, as Dan explained, to have a little bit of an overview of what is happening here, why is it happening, and who is involved in all this. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for that. And maybe if we can just go straight to our today's agenda. And today being the first day of the summit, how is the feel? How long is the summit expected to last? What are some of the expectations? What is the mood on ground? So please.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Diana. So, the Blue Economy Investment and Innovation Summit is starting today um, at the Pride Inn. As I have mentioned before, it's expected to run through Friday. There are hundreds of people here. I have been in the plenary sessions in the morning. The lots of activities are happening, very inspiring keynote speeches. For those who had a chance to look at the website of the summit, there are plenty of high level invitees who have come here to share solutions on what shape the future of our ocean. And just to break it down a little bit, the Blue Economy Innovation and Investment Summit is not happening for the first time. There have been previous editions. The last year's edition happened around the same time, around October in 2024. And I think this year's edition is a little bit bigger. It has a lot of delegates, there are exhibitions, there is a lot of expectations in terms of how this translates into policy, the role of science, the role of investors. So it's bringing together a lot of diverse audiences, but also a lot of startups who need the much required funding to scale up their innovative ideas. It is cross-cutting in terms of themes. So if you hear Blue Economy Summit, most people just think about the money element of things. But from what I'm seeing here on the ground, there's more to that. There are people who are singing, there are poets, there are people who are translating, the issues that are facing our ocean into words and spoken art. I have seen murals, I have seen exhibitions, there are lots of exhibitions at the Expo Center where people are, using waste to form, products that can be sold. There are people who are transforming the entire aquaculture into really great enterprises. This morning, I was just listening to one startup that last year raised over 500,000 USD, and the previous year they had raised over 1.7 million USD, and employing over 200, actually employing over 900 young people. So it's much more to do with, yes, scaling up and bringing big ideas together, just the way we need it for our ocean in today's reality.
Wow, that is so amazing. And I think that is one aspect that even I personally had not like looked at it in that angle. And it's so promising to hear that from this summit, youths are getting finance opportunities, they're getting jobs opportunities, and that is really interesting and a nice summit for everyone to take part in. And you have also like mentioned some of the key sectors that the summit is also looking at. You have mentioned the fisheries sector, you have mentioned the waste management sector, and I also believe like the summit is supporting or featuring the transport sector in the marine ecosystem, the energy sector. I believe those are some of also the areas, right?
Yeah, those are some of the thematic areas. And in today's world, we also talk about tech. But in this regard, we're talking about ocean tech. So tech that benefits, the sustainable management and conservation of our ocean, of our shared ocean. And talking about ocean tech, I was really moved this morning when I learned that Slovakia, which is technically a country that does not have an ocean, is really interested in such summits, and it has been supporting the Blue Economy Innovation and Investment Summit from the very first edition. And the speech from the ambassador of Slovakia to Kenya was that even though they don't have an ocean, they have a big sea of ideas that can benefit the world in terms of conserving the shared oceans. So they are looking at the bigger picture, and it's an inspiring thing to see that ocean tech countries that are, developed in terms of, technology, are not just looking at how landlocked they are, but actually at the benefit that they can bring to the table in terms of conserving our shared ocean. So this is really a great testament to the fact that even countries that do not have an ocean have a great role to play in the future of our ocean, because the ocean sustains all of us. And so, as you rightly mentioned, beyond fisheries, there are other thematic areas. So, looking at circularity, and this afternoon, actually, we're going to the East African Wildlife Society is going to lead a vibrant side event on touching on circularities. The discussions that came out of the INC meeting in Geneva, also the UNOC, the UN Ocean Conference that happened earlier in the year in France. So these are some of the issues that are, or thematic areas that are being flagged here. And of course, financing is also a big issue. So when you're talking about ocean finance, because we need to realize the much needed resources to either effectively govern or manage or conserve or sustainably use the ocean. And so it is important that we bring finances to promising ideas, so that we can drive this conversation forward. And this has been an issue that has been raised over and over again. In the previous edition of, say, UNOC, there was a huge gap in terms of financing, and we can talk about this a little bit later in this conversation. But yes, this is really cross-cutting in terms of the themes.
Oh, wow. That was so profound. And from what you have just shared, I still stand to believe that there is so much of opportunity and innovations around ocean tech, which is we can also like tap into, and basically that is the point or the reason for the summit to, untap what has not yet been tapped fully, and to see how we can benefit from it. And you just went ahead and mentioned the UNOC 3 that happened a few months ago and the INC 5.2. I wanted you to maybe give us insights on if whether this Blue Economy Innovation and Investment Summit is supporting these regional policies, or is it just about the technical bit? And what are some of the policies that this summit is advocating for? And if at all there are also outcomes expected to come out of this summit?
Yeah, and there's a lot of expectations, a lot of things that are expected to come out of this summit. As you rightly mentioned, the element of financing is one of the biggest commitment, and finance is, not just an investor commitment. Finance is also a public sector commitment, and there is a lot that we can unlock if we make our policies in line with our conservation objectives or the gaps that currently exist. You mentioned the UN Ocean Conference that happened earlier this year in France. And one of the things that were raised there is that SDG 14, which is life below water, is one of the most underfunded SDGs of the 17. And we need close to $175 billion per year to effectively drive this SDG forward. And unfortunately, currently we are not realizing anything close to that per year. Going by the financial commitments that were made during the UNOC 3, which is roughly about 30 or below million dollars, you find that that's like literally a drop in the sea, a drop in the ocean that we were discussing about. And so it is really important that we drive financial commitment through public sector, but also financial commitment through the so-called investors or the private sector. And I think it's a huge opportunity for private public kind of partnerships to drive this forward at a large scale, because it is not possible, for example, if the taxes are super high for startups, then they find it difficult for them to break even in the economies. And you find that some of these innovative ideas are green in the sense that they are just coming to the space. And so if you overtax these ideas, then you're literally killing them. And one of the objectives of this year's Blue Economy Innovation and Investment Summit is to spotlight some of these underrated or under-highlighted kind of opportunities that exist here in Africa and by extension Kenya. Things like aquaculture. We've heard about groups, for example, farming seaweed and transforming seaweed into usable products like lotions, like shampoos, oil and desserts and stuff like that. But then there is still a gap in the sense that most of these groups do this at a small scale because the financing, the much needed financing, is still not there. And also the way that they do it in some quarters of science is deemed to be destructive. We've had a lot of talk around the impact of seaweed farming on seagrasses and other coastal ecosystems. That when you are establishing seaweed plots in the ocean, you are also tampering with other marine ecosystems. And so we need policies. That's where I think policy comes in to create a balance between conservation of vital marine and coastal ecosystems and enterprises that support local livelihoods of people who depend on the ocean for their day-to-day survival. And so I think this is a great opportunity because this summit is bringing together all these people under one umbrella, the government, the civil society, local communities, and other groups, to discuss how they can foster this collaboration and synergies so that there is not some sort of siloed approach to issues, and that we can unlock a lot of resources, be it technology, be it finances, to go towards some of these overlooked ventures. Uh, Then I just realized that there is one thing that I really liked about this summit. There is a room, a very nice room that they call the deal room. And the deal room is a place where these uh, startups and micro SMEs and medium level SMEs will be meeting investors. They
Yeah.
have invited several investors to the summit, and there will be opportunity for the startups to meet these investors and crack this during this summit. And I hope that we get huge announcements at the end for financing that will be unlocked. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. And you have mentioned of the deal room. I want to believe also like startups that are youth led are also in the room. And in terms of representation, since this is it is at the cost, it is at home. How is the attendance? How are they? Their representation from across all genders or groups?
The attendance is great. I have just come from the plenary, which is the main room, and it's full. It's literally full of people. I can imagine that hundreds of people are there. We've had also high level attendance from the PSS to representative, not PSS, but actually ambassadors to representatives of the county governments and other important ministries in the country. I have seen a lot of young people here, friends of mine also attending, and we have had several pitches already. Actually, as we speak now, what is happening is that the speeches have just been the pitches have just been concluded, and now we're having high level remarks from ambassadors and other dignitaries. And so it is a good mix of attendance. And as I told you, there is also an expo center where there is a lot of exhibitions from startups, from young people, women-led enterprises, and all these groups are showcasing what they are doing to enhance the blue economy. There is also a lot of music and art and culture all fused into one, and so it's I would say it's a festival. It's beyond a summit. It's a festival here, festival of ideas.
Well, thank you so much for that, Kevin. And my other question would be after the summit, how do you see different stakeholders collaborating beyond just meeting and talking? How can we ensure that we sustain the momentum of this summit? And also, how can the youths
Mhm.
get more of this opportunity and this platform to take part into?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's partly why we are here at the East African Wildlife Society. We have been part of this blue economy conversation or action for a while now. I remember in the past years, the East African Wildlife Society has been supporting the beach management units with boards to try and enhance their livelihoods and enhance, their productivity in the ocean. And that is a form of enhancing, blue economy at the local level. And as a grassroots organization that believes in regional collaboration, this summit speaks directly to us. And we are here to gather ideas on how best we can either collaborate or amplify the work that we are doing in that front. We are now also in the process of revising our marine strategy. And I think some of these elements will also help shape the discussions around that so that we can see how best we can enhance and build on the work that we have been doing in this front in terms of how the entire summit moves on from here. I think the deals will make a big mark on that. As I mentioned, I am waiting eagerly to see who has been supported in what fronts. I know beyond the deals, there will also be initiatives and collaborations that are going to be announced here, on what organizations are planning to do in the past. or in the next few years and months to enhance blue economy. As you already know, Kenya is hosting our ocean conference next year. So some of the discussions that we start here and at this moment will also feed into the broader discussion. The government is here, and so they should be looking at, for example, how much of the commitments in terms of financing are being made here so that they can build on that momentum going into our ocean conference. Looking ahead, also this year alone, we have the Climate COP30 coming in. And we also have the United Nations Environment Assembly, the seventh edition of UNIA, also happening later this year in Nairobi. And so I view this summit as an important kind of stepping stone going into all these multilateral engagements and meetings that are happening after. Because then we need to remember that our ocean conference has an element on voluntary commitments. And so I think it's a good time that we start talking about these commitments now for those organizations, investors, and other stakeholders that haven't thought about it, so that when we drive into our ocean conference, we can then realize many more voluntary commitments than we would have than if summit didn't happen. So I see a lot of great things happen. I'm big fan of great ocean innovative ideas and collaboration, especially at grassroots level. So I'm keen. I am having an eye to see how that unfolds, and of course through our Swara e-magazine, we shall be able to give an article on how all this pans out.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And that really shows how collaboration is key to ensuring that we are pushing all these policies, these innovations, and these opportunities to everyone. And maybe anyone who has a question can feel free to drop it in the chat box. We will be able to have Kevin respond before the end of the session. And maybe Kevin, as you have mentioned, I don't know if you can hear me. Yes, maybe if you can briefly tell us on the session, okay, on the session that you are leading tomorrow, on if you can make us understand how is it and why is it important for us to understand the plastic pollution aspect when it comes to ocean conservation, and how can we tap into, because one of the challenge that I know is that the enterprises in the waste management sector do not really have a lot of opportunity to showcase the innovation and do not really understand. So how can they be engaged, and how is this critical, to not only our national policy, our regional, but also in the international space?
Yeah, thank you, Diana. The session that is being led by East African Wildlife Society, and just to mention that East African Wildlife Society is leading a track on marine pollution, and there is a panel discussion bringing together high-level panelists from government and also from the private sector to discuss how we can move together forward after the deliberations of INC 5.2 and also the UNOC 3 that happened in France. This session is happening later today. It's happening from 2:30 actually, so in the next like 1 hour, and it's gonna run until 4:30. And we'll be moderating this session. The purpose of this session is actually to bring insights, as I mentioned, into how we can draw innovative ideas. And as you rightly put it, putting young people at the center of it. And so one of the panelists will be giving a very detailed presentation on how young people, especially innovative young people, can be supported in terms of finances, technology, capacity building, what is referred within the Convention on Biological Diversity as the means of implementation. I know in most cases people talk about means of implementation meant for countries. But for this session, we'll be talking about the means of implementation of youth-led ideas. And so we want to see how young people can be capacity built, how young people can be financed, how young people can be provided with working tailored technologies. And so technology transfer is a huge issue because here in Kenya, we are disadvantaged to some extent. We are still very innovative and very tech driven, but still disadvantaged in the sense that there is a lot of advanced technology out there. And Kenya is not a standalone case study. The global south as an entire region is disadvantaged in terms of access to cheap advanced technology. And so how do we then create like south-south, north-south partnerships that can enable seamless transfer of youth-focused technologies? And so that will be one of the issues that we'll be discussing. We'll, of course, also talk about the INC, the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee on Plastics. The last time the meeting happened in Geneva, somewhere in August, it didn't end very well, and there is a stalemate around that. There is an entire hullabaloo on if these negotiations are happening again or not. Unfortunately, until now, we still don't know, but we hope that they will continue because these are very crucial multilateral engagement meetings. And the union, which I mentioned is happening again in December, is the body that mandated countries to negotiate and come up with a legally binding agreement to end plastic pollution. We have been extending this because initially it was to be done by, I think, 2024. We haven't done it until now. There have been more than 5 iterations of INC meetings. One happened in Nairobi, but still there hasn't been a deal because there have been constant drawbacks, especially from petrostates and countries that for some reason still have plastics. And so this conversation this afternoon will be looking a little bit into that and how do we move on from there, because plastic pollution is one of the biggest challenges facing our ocean today. And it's not just facing the ocean ecosystems, it's also threatening other ocean blue economy streams, like fisheries, for example. If by 2050 we end up having more plastics than fish in the ocean, then of course we won't have fisheries sustaining themselves. And so we are going to dig a little bit deep into that and also talk about policies and other elements. And so it's a session that I'm really looking forward to this afternoon.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for elaborating us to Earth, that to Earth. And Tim, thank you also everyone for joining and who's joining. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat box. We will be able to address them. But so far, there is one question from Anne. And if Kevin, I can pose this to you. Anne is asking, what is the difference with this summit? Because as we understand, there are a lot of summits and conferences, like you have just mentioned. We had the UNOC 3 that happened. We had INC 5.2 that never resulted to, any kind of tangible agreements. We are having UNEA that is also coming up. We are having our ocean conference early next year. So what is different with this kind of summit? If you can tell us that, I believe maybe David would have, but I also believe this is you are also able to tell us.
Yeah, thanks, Anne. I think that's a very valid question. In reality, it's true. There are lots of conferences happening left, right, and center. Lots of multilateral agreements happening, and also negotiations happening. But these negotiations, some of them have landed us at a very good place in the past. For example, the Rio Conventions, starting in 1992, when we now started having the Convention on Biological Diversity, the Convention on Climate Change, the Convention on Desertification. These Rio conventions have really pushed a lot in terms of, conservation of biodiversity, recognition of desert areas and how we can manage desert areas, and also how we can keep the planet under 1.5 degrees. And so it is vital that we have these discussions, because if we don't have these discussions, then it is everyone's problem, which is also no one's problem. Some of these discussions and conventions have also resulted in obligated contribution towards solutions. And that is to say that some of the protocols of the conventions are legally binding. So countries are legally mandated to abide by, the global aspirations. For example, the Kyoto Protocol. We also have the Nagoya Protocol in the CBD. These protocols are legally binding. Also, I also mentioned about the INC, which was also going to be legally binding. And so every country will be legally mandated to cut their plastic production. So, and these kind of commitments are only coming around because people are having conversations and leading to consensus, because most of these conventions reach agreements based on consensus, meaning everybody agrees to doing what they want to do, what they collectively agree to do. Having said that, it's also true that most of the things that have been spoken in the past have still not been attained, and probably that explains why we need to have these conversations again. Because, for example, it has been spoken a lot of times that we need to have more financing going to our ocean ecosystems, that SDG 14 is hugely underfunded. No one is listening. And that's why we still have to talk about the need to raise resources, to raise financial resources towards SDG 14. Otherwise, no one will raise resources for that. In the climate space, there are countries that are categorized as Annex 1 countries. And these countries are developed countries, and they are obligated to support developing countries. If you go to the UN CBD, the Convention on Biological Diversity, there is a phrase that says we have shared but differentiated responsibilities, meaning that we share the common responsibility of conserving our planet, our biodiversity, sustainably managing and using them. But then these responsibilities are differentiated. If you're a developed countries, you can, for example, support developing countries to attend COPs, and things like that, or put money into a central pot that goes into conservation of biological diversity. And so, going to this part B of your question, which was, why is this specific summit different from the rest? I think this summit is unique in the sense that we do not have any other blue carbon innovation and investment summit, especially here in Kenya, that I have heard of. And having these conversations on annual basis, raising the money, the much needed financial resources, technology, and capacity for startups is really great. The convener of this summit, which is Sote Hub, is an incubation center here, based here in Mombasa. Sote Hub nurtures startups and MSMEs to realize their aspirations and provide solutions to the ocean. And in addition to that, it raises funds for these startups. And one of the ways that it can raise funds for these startups is to having a gathering where people from diverse backgrounds come to see what exactly are these startups all about. What are they trying to do? What is the finance gap? How do we partner with these startups? And so this gathering is more than a talk show. It is actually a doing, is an undertaking that people, as I mentioned, for example, there's a deal room that startups would be unlocking resources, moving out of this place. And so it is uniquely positioned in a way that, one, it aims to address the emerging and existing ocean challenges of our time, especially here in Africa, and two, that is raising the much needed resources to match the challenge, creating solutions to the challenge. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin. That is indeed great insights to understand all about it. And also, just to ask you ahead, next week we'll be having the WIOMSA Symposium. And from how you have just mentioned, is that this summit basically is trying, to bring innovators with investors, and be able to, um, support these startups in a way that is very simple, because we know that it is difficult for young people, to get funding, or the processes is a bit difficult. But thanks to Sote Hub and all the conveners of this summit, because it really takes one to identify the problems that are within their region, for them to organize such a platform for the young people, and even like for policymakers, for investors to come and support the enhancement of this sector. So maybe I can open the floor to anyone who has any other question, anyone joining us. If you have any question, you can drop it in the chat box. But I see we are like 40 minutes into our time. And yeah, we have kept time. Maybe if you can share some of your, I hope I'll not close for anyone with any question, but maybe Kevin, you can tell us some of your key takeaways from your own personal expectations, from even the expectations or the viewpoints of the civil society organizations and NGO. What are some of your key takeaways on that, or on this summit?
Uh, is it directed to me, the question, Diana?
Yes.
Oh, my expectations. I have huge expectations. As I mentioned, I didn't attend the previous edition of this summit. And so it's good to be here. I have huge expectations, especially for the investors and what they are looking in, or what they're in for in terms of financing. I know that some ocean elements have been financed more than other elements. For example, aquaculture is still hugely underfunded. And so I am keen to see if startups that are working on aquaculture will unlock more financing in that regard. I am also personally biased towards plastic pollution, and I really want the world to be plastic free. I desperately want to see that. But I also am keen to see like what amount of financing is going into eliminating plastic pollution, and especially in a way that translates these plastics into wonderful products that can be um, repurchased. But then also understanding that not all plastics can be recycled, and also just the process of recycling or upcycling plastics is a maze in terms of environmental pollution, but also not fetching much in terms of the products that come out of it. So then the challenge, I mean, the best solution is that countries will just stop producing plastics. But because we are not doing that, then we turn to alternative B, which is how do we then take care of the plastic that is already in our environment? And so I am looking forward to see how parties, in this case, the delegates, can work together to address plastics that is littering our oceans at large scale. Because for Kenya, for example, we just need a very mega large scale kind of initiative to drive out all the plastics that is showing up on our beaches. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. And that means that it is everyone's responsibility to ensure that, we attain all these desires to have a better place and a sustainable economy. And maybe just to recap on for our session today, we were just unpacking or understanding what the Blue Economy Innovation and Investment Summit is all about. And our speaker for today has been Kevin Lunzalo from East Africa Wildlife Society. he is a strong advocate, you know, for ocean conservation, and as you have heard from his insight. And I want to say thank you for everyone who has joined here today. Thank you for tuning in and listening. And I believe that this session has, in one way or the other, enabled you to understand what is happening within our premises as a country and also as a region. And we can all do something, as Kevin has put it, for us to have a shared vision. So once again, I want to say thank you so much for joining. You can follow East Africa Wildlife Society in our social media pages, in our Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. You can follow Sote Hub to learn more about the summit and other innovative opportunities they are having. I believe they are having investors on board, even they can train youths. And also you keep in touch on what is happening. Lastly, I don't know if you have any closing remarks to say, Kevin, anything else before we wind up? Or anyone who has anything, any comments, any
Setting this up.
suggestions?
Yeah, thanks for driving this. It's been a smooth drive. Looking forward to seeing everybody who is planning to attend the summit in person. For those who are watching us, and I hope Diana, after this session, probably this will stay on the ILS page for a while, for a little while, for people to learn more about the summit. But if you are intending to come to the summit this afternoon, the session is that is being led by the East African Wildlife Society is in a room called Sail Room, which is on the Ocean Bay building. So when you get to the Ocean Bay building, just ask for the sail room. We shall be there from 2:30. We'll be having a wonderful conversation with amazing speakers from 5 different organizations. So I'm looking forward to meeting all of you and also sharing up all the wonderful ideas at the exhibition center. Thanks, everybody, and see you soon.
Well, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. We meet again next time. Thank you so much. You are free to leave now. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Bye bye.
Thanks, Diana. Bye bye.